She cheated on me with my brother. I forgave her, proposed, and planned the perfect wedding, then left her at the altar with a note exposing everything. If someone had told me 3 years ago that I'd end up leaving the woman I loved at the altar, on purpose, I would have laughed in their face. I'm not the vengeful type, or at least I didn't used to be. My name's Alex. I'm 31, civil engineer by trade. I build bridges and tunnels for a living. But looking back, I was completely blind to the cracks forming in my personal life. Funny how you can see every structural flaw in steel and concrete, but miss the emotional sinkhole right under your feet. I met Rachel when I was 25. She worked in HR at the same firm as my best friend, Tony. He introduced us at a barbecue, and she was immediately easy to talk to. Charming, soft-spoken, with this contagious laugh that made people want to lean in and stay longer. We clicked fast, dated for a year before moving in together. Fought sometimes, sure, but who doesn't? She knew how to calm me down, how to make even the dullest Tuesday night feel like something worth remembering. I genuinely thought I'd found my person. The cheating? That didn't come out of nowhere, but it felt like it did. It started small. She started getting distant around the holidays, the year before I proposed. Thought it was work stress. I mean, who isn't overworked and burnout near the end of the year? She was glued to her phone a little more. Went out more often. Said she was reconnecting with some college friends. I didn't press. That's my mistake. I gave her too much benefit of the doubt. Trusted her too much. Then my younger brother, Liam, came back into town. Liam and I have always had a rocky relationship. He's 3 years younger, and ever since we were kids, he always had a chip on his shoulder. Competitive to the point of being obnoxious. Always trying to one-up me, even when no one was keeping score. I was the first to graduate college. He dropped out. I bought my first car at 23. He wrecked his trying to do donuts in a Walmart parking lot. He's one of those charming screw-ups, you know the kind. The ones who always land on their feet, even when they shouldn't. Rachel had only met him a handful of times before he moved away. At least, that's what I thought. He came back around February that year, said he was trying to get his life together, and wanted to crash on my couch while job hunting. Rachel was hesitant at first, said it would stress me out, but I talked her into it. I figured a few weeks wouldn't kill us. That was the beginning of the unraveling. At first, it was little things. Inside jokes between them I didn't understand. Long conversations in the kitchen after I'd gone to bed. One night, I came home from work early and heard them laughing in the living room. Wine glasses on the table, music playing softly. When I walked in, they both went quiet. Red flag, right? But I ignored it. Because I trusted her. Because I didn't want to believe my brother, my own flesh and blood, could do something so low. A few days later, I found the messages. She left her phone on the kitchen counter while she showered. I wasn't trying to snoop. I was setting an alarm for something. I forget what now. But the preview lit up. Liam. Last night was risky, but worth it. He doesn't suspect a thing. Everything in me froze. My pulse jumped. I tapped it. Opened the full thread. I read messages going back months. I couldn't breathe. Photos. Videos. Late-night confessions. Even jokes about how clueless I was. One message from Rachel said, "It's like he's allergic to confrontation. He'll never know." I dropped the phone. I couldn't look at it anymore. I couldn't think. Rachel came out of the bathroom minutes later, towel in her hair, completely unaware of the storm she'd just unleashed. I didn't confront her. Not yet. Not in that moment. Instead, I waited. Planned. I knew what I wanted. I wanted revenge. But not just angry, screaming, glass-breaking revenge. No, I wanted something precise. Something she wouldn't forget. That night, I told her I wanted to take our relationship to the next level. I proposed 3 days later. And she said yes, smiling like nothing had happened. Like I was the luckiest man alive. And I smiled back, because I knew exactly what I was going to do. Proposing to someone you know has betrayed you is one of the most surreal things you can do. I practiced smiling in the mirror beforehand. I rehearsed the speech. Not too cheesy, not too grand. Just enough to sound like the Alex she thought she knew. Because she never really knew me. She knew the version of me that didn't ask too many questions, who gave the benefit of the doubt, who quietly picked up after her when she forgot her umbrella or left the stove on. The version she thought was too soft to ever suspect anything. She didn't know the version of me that could stomach holding her hand while knowing exactly what she did with my brother in the guest bedroom while I was working late shifts last October. or that I'd seen the blurry picture of Liam's tattoo, the one just above his hip, that she'd sent with a caption that read, "Still the best mistake I've ever made." She thought I was blind. I wasn't. I was watching. So when I got down on one knee at the park where we had our first date, and she burst into tears and gasped, and said yes in front of a dozen strangers, I held the ring out with steady hands. I knew exactly what I was doing. I didn't pick that ring for her. I picked it because it was slightly too small. I wanted her finger to feel it constantly, tight, unrelenting. I wanted the symbol of our forever to be uncomfortable from the start. And she wore it every day, beaming, showing friends, posting pictures online. Lucky me, she'd write. Comments flooded in. You two are perfect together. So happy for you. Perfect. That word became a curse in my head. A punchline. But it served my purpose. The more people who believed in us, the more devastating the truth would be when it dropped like a grenade at the altar. We dove into wedding planning fast. She wanted something rustic. A barn venue, string lights, wooden signage with cursive fonts, mason jars and baby's breath. I nodded along, took notes, smiled when she showed me Pinterest boards. I was all in, completely cooperative. The dream fiancé. I even agreed when she said she wanted Liam in the wedding party. Really? She said, eyes wide. You sure? Of course, I told her. He's my brother. She kissed me then, and I wanted to throw up. I could still remember the way she laughed when Liam texted her a picture of them tangled in the sheets, captioned, "Who needs family loyalty when the sex is this good?" I read that one twice. 3 times. It never got easier. But I didn't show it. Not once. Instead, I started keeping a journal. Not of my pain, but of every interaction, every moment she showed even the slightest ounce of guilt. I was hunting for cracks. There were times I thought she might know. That maybe I was giving myself away. Once, I caught her staring at me across the kitchen table while I read the paper. What? I asked. Nothing, she said slowly. You've just been really sweet lately. It feels like we're back in the beginning again. I smiled. Isn't that what every couple wants? She reached for my hand. I don't deserve you sometimes. I nearly laughed in her face. She didn't deserve me on my worst day. But the guilt in her voice? It wasn't remorse. It was fear. Fear of getting caught. Fear that the safety net she'd carefully built out of my trust and devotion might be thinning. I wanted her to stay afraid. The wedding planning became a kind of theater I was surprisingly good at. Cake tastings, flower arrangements, rehearsal dinner planning. I leaned in. I told her she looked beautiful in every dress. I cried when her mom gave her a locket to wear on the big day. I told her I'd never been so sure of anything in my life. And somewhere deep down, I think I meant it. Because I was sure. Sure that this would be the last lie she'd ever tell about me. Sure that she would remember this day for the rest of her life. Not as her happiest, but as the one she'd regret most. The closer the wedding got, the more I prepared. Every detail mattered. The seating chart had to be perfect. I made sure her family was front and center. Her conservative aunt, her judgmental cousins, her godmother who had once whispered to me at Christmas, "She's lucky to have you, you know." I wanted them to see. I wanted the whole damn world to see. Because if betrayal had taught me anything, it's that shame has its maximum power when the curtain is pulled back in front of an audience. The week of the wedding felt like standing in the eye of a hurricane. Everything was calm on the surface, calm enough to fool most people. But I knew exactly how much devastation was coming. I'd planned it down to the second. We had guests flying in from all over. Rachel's family rented a massive lake house nearby, and mine booked out half a hotel. My mom cried 3 separate times in the first 24 hours of being in town. Once when she saw Rachel's dress, once during dinner when Rachel called her mom, and once when she saw my dad iron his own shirt without being asked. It was the emotional high everyone expected from a wedding. Rachel was radiant that week. That's the only word for it. She glowed. She was fully in bride mode. Group chats with her bridesmaids, hair trials, last-minute vendor calls. She let me sleep in while she ran around town with her mom and sister, finalizing things. I spent those mornings quietly refining the speech I'd prepared. I wasn't just going to leave her. I was going to let her know exactly why in front of everyone who mattered to her. My best man, Will, didn't know everything. He knew something was off, but I only told him I had a surprise planned for the big day. He assumed it was something romantic. He was wrong. Liam showed up 2 days before the wedding. He acted like we were still close, like he hadn't turned my entire world into a joke. He gave me one of those brotherly slaps on the back and said, "Almost there, man. You nervous?" I looked him dead in the eye and said, "I've never been more certain of anything in my life." He didn't even flinch. Sociopath behavior. Rachel and Liam were careful that week. Nothing suspicious in plain sight. But I still caught the glances. The quiet moments. The way she touched his arm when passing by. If you didn't know what they'd done, you wouldn't see it. But I knew. And it made every interaction between them feel like I was watching a slow-motion car crash that I'd already survived. The rehearsal dinner was held at a fancy Italian place her parents loved. Everyone was in high spirits. Her dad gave a speech about how Rachel was finally settling down with the right kind of man. And people clinked glasses and cheered. Liam gave a toast too. That part almost broke me. He stood there with a wine glass, smiling that practiced smile of his, and said, "I've looked up to Alex my whole life. He's everything I'm not. Stable, patient, loyal. Rachel, you're getting a real one." He had the audacity to say that while she sat beside me, wearing earrings I gave her, holding my hand under the table. I laughed out loud. People thought I was just moved. My mom even dabbed her eyes. But inside, I felt like I was being hollowed out by acid. Later that night, Rachel and I stayed at the guest suite at her parents' place. She curled up beside me in bed, draped her leg over mine, kissed my shoulder, and whispered, "I can't wait to marry you." And I just stared at the ceiling, counting the hours. By the next morning, I had everything ready. I'd written the note weeks ago, edited it over and over, printed it neatly on cream stationery that matched our invitations. It wasn't long, just 3 paragraphs. Enough to say what needed saying. Enough to burn it all down. I gave it to Will that morning. "Hand this to Rachel after the music starts. When she's walking down the aisle. Don't open it. Just trust me." He raised an eyebrow. "This some kind of poetic grand gesture?" "You'll see," I said. And I meant it. The venue was beautiful. We rented a refurbished barn, strung with fairy lights and white fabric. The air smelled like lilacs and rain-soaked grass. Guests filed in smiling, dressed to the nines, drinks in hand. Everyone said it looked like something out of a movie. Rachel was getting ready in the bridal suite. I didn't see her before the ceremony. My mom came in to straighten my boutonniere, said she was proud of me, and that she'd never seen me this happy. I almost told her the truth then and there. But I held it in. Just a few more minutes. Then it was time. The music began. The officiant took his place. I stood at the altar, back straight, eyes fixed on the door. And then it opened. Rachel appeared in her dress. Ivory silk, lace sleeves, veil glowing in the sunlight. Everyone gasped. Cameras flashed. She looked stunning. Will stood at the edge of the aisle, right where I told him to be. And just before Rachel could take her first step forward, he handed her the envelope. She blinked, confused, took it, and opened it on instinct. She read the first few lines. Then she stopped walking. Her face drained of color. Guests looked around, murmuring, wondering what was happening. She looked up at me, and I just smiled. She stood frozen, bouquet trembling in her hands. Her lips parted slightly like she was trying to form words, but couldn't remember how. The music kept playing, the strings section halfway through canon in D, and guests craned their necks to see what was going on. Some chuckled awkwardly, thinking maybe it was just nerves or cold feet. A few raised their phones higher, capturing every moment. But I wasn't looking at the guests. I was watching Rachel. She clutched the letter now, her eyes scanning it again and again, as if rereading would somehow change the words. That maybe, just maybe, she misunderstood. But she didn't, because I'd made sure every word was deliberate, clean, brutal in its honesty. This is what the note said. "Rachel, you look beautiful today. You've always known how to make things look perfect on the outside. But I know what you did. I've known for months. I've seen the messages, the photos, the late-night calls. I know you slept with my brother. I know it wasn't just once. I know you joked about me behind my back. I know you told him he made you feel more alive than I ever did. So I want you to have this moment. I want you to remember how it felt, walking toward a future you thought was safe. I want you to feel everyone's eyes on you, just like I felt when I discovered the truth. You don't get to marry me, but everyone gets to know why." She looked up, and I swear in that moment, the world held its breath. Her mascara was already beginning to smudge. Her lips were trembling now. A guest in the front row, her aunt, I think, whispered, "What's going on?" louder than she realized. Then Rachel turned toward the crowd and bolted. The violinist stopped. Gasps filled the air like a wave. Murmurs erupted. Her mother stood up, looking confused. My mom put a hand over her mouth. I stayed rooted where I was, staring at the empty aisle. The spotlight still on me, the groom with no bride. And I waited. Not for Rachel, but for Liam. He was standing in the second row, pale, eyes wide, panic spreading across his face like wildfire. And now everyone started looking at him. Rachel's cousin blurted, "Isn't that Alex's brother?" And then, wait, what the hell did she read? Then someone else. Did she cheat on him? It all unraveled quickly. I stepped forward, picked up the mic from the officiant, and faced the crowd. "I won't take up much of your time," I began, calm, steady. "But since most of you traveled here to witness a marriage, it's only fair you get the truth instead." A hush fell over the barn. Phones dropped. Conversations stopped. Eyes locked on me. "Rachel and I are not getting married today. That's because she's been having an affair for almost a year. With my brother, Liam." A collective gasp. Whispers exploded. Rachel's mom physically recoiled. She lied. Repeatedly. Smiled in my face while sneaking behind my back. Planned this wedding while sharing a bed with someone who was supposed to be my family. I glanced at Liam. He looked like he wanted to disappear. Good. She told him I'd never find out. She was wrong. I nodded at the stunned crowd, then stepped down from the altar and walked past rows of shocked faces. My shoes echoed on the wooden floor. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. By the time I reached the parking lot, someone inside was yelling. Someone else cried. And I swear, I heard someone actually clap. Outside, the sky was bright, clear, utterly indifferent to the disaster I'd left behind. Will followed me out a minute later. "What the hell, man?" he said, half stunned, half impressed. "You planned this." I just nodded. He shook his head. "I mean, Jesus, that was savage. You okay?" "Getting there." He pulled me into a quick hug, then laughed. "Can I just say, this is going to be legendary. Like, no one's going to forget this. I hope they don't." Because that was the point. Inside the barn, chaos reigned. Rachel's dad tried to find me, shouting my name. Her mom was crying. Someone had pulled Liam aside, and I heard a bottle shattered at some point. I didn't go back. I went home. Home to a packed bag, pre-booked hotel room, and a bottle of whiskey I'd saved for this very night. In the silence of the hotel room, I played it all back. Her face when she read the note. The silence that followed. The betrayal burning in the open air like rot exposed to sunlight. I expected to feel triumphant, but mostly I felt empty. Not sad, just hollow. Like the years I'd poured into her had evaporated into smoke. Like all the pieces of our fake future were still clinging to my skin. Still, I didn't regret it. Some things aren't meant to be healed quietly. Some betrayals deserve to be buried with fireworks. And I had one more left to light. The aftermath hit harder than I anticipated. Not emotionally. I had braced for that. But logistically. Rachel's family tried to do damage control. Her mom called my parents, claiming I'd overreacted and that nothing physical had actually happened. That it was just texts and emotional confusion. My dad shut that down fast. "I saw the photos," he said bluntly. "You raised a liar. Don't call here again." Liam? He disappeared for a while. My guess is he crawled back under whatever rock he came from. But word spread fast. A cousin of ours who worked at the same accounting firm as him told me Liam tried denying everything until screenshots surfaced. Yep, I'd sent copies of the evidence to myself, then created a private, timed email to auto-send to a few select people, just in case they tried flipping the story. The email included everything. The messages, the photos, the calendar appointments they used to meet up, even the Uber receipts. I didn't send it to everyone, but just enough to ensure the truth couldn't be buried. Rachel's friend Emily posted a vague TikTok about betrayals and wedding disasters that got over 200K views in 3 days. People speculated in the comments. Someone eventually made the connection, and Rachel locked down her social media. Liam deleted his entirely. As for me, I took a week off work and just let it breathe. I stayed in that hotel for 2 nights, then drove north, no destination in mind. I hiked during the day and slept in cheap cabins at night. It was peaceful, raw, exactly what I needed. No pity, no drama, just silence and trees. One night, I sat under the stars with a journal, something I hadn't touched since high school. I didn't write about Rachel or Liam. I wrote about me, what I'd wanted from life, how I'd built everything around her, how I'd let myself ignore the signs, the fear of being alone, The desperation to believe we were solid because I didn't want to admit I'd made a mistake. I let myself cry. Not for her, but for the time I lost. That's the hardest part about betrayal. It robs you not just of trust, but of years. You mourn a future that never even had a chance to exist. But in that quiet space, I started building something new. When I returned home, things had changed. People treated me differently. Some were awkward, unsure whether to bring it up. Others congratulated me, literally said, "You handled it like a boss." One guy from work, who I barely knew, said, "I've never seen anyone take control of a disaster like that." Rachel tried calling. Once. Left a voicemail. "I never meant to hurt you," she said, voice cracking. "I don't know what came over me. I think I got scared. You were too good to me. I panicked. Please, can we just talk?" No, we couldn't. Liam didn't reach out. Not even once. That was fine. He'd already proven he didn't have the guts to face the mess he made. The wedding vendors were kind, surprisingly. Most gave partial refunds or credits. A few told me they'd heard horror stories, but this one takes the cake. One florist even sent me a small potted plant with a note that read, "You dodged a bullet. Here's something green that won't betray you." I kept the plant. Still have it. A month later, I got a message from someone unexpected, Rachel's sister, Katie. She'd always been the quiet one. Younger. Reserved. She apologized for everything. Told me she suspected something months ago, but didn't have proof. Said Rachel had always been impulsive, and their parents just covered for her constantly. Katie said she respected what I did. She also told me Rachel was going through a rough time. Cried a lot. Wasn't eating. Had moved back home. I thanked her for telling me, but didn't ask for more. That chapter was closed. What surprised me most was how free I felt. No more second-guessing. No more pretending. No more waiting for the other shoe to drop. I started running more. Eating better. I signed up for a creative writing workshop on a whim. It helped. A lot. At one session, I told the story, anonymously. When I finished, the room was silent. Then someone said, "That's the most cathartic thing I've ever heard." Another added, "You should publish it." Maybe I will. Revenge stories are usually about fire, about destruction, but mine turned into something else. Something quieter, more measured. A story of reclaiming dignity, of using precision instead of chaos, of choosing to walk away without screaming, because the truth was loud enough on its own. One of my favorite quotes from the workshop was, "Some endings are gifts wearing masks of grief." That stuck with me. I didn't just end a relationship. I ended a cycle of ignoring red flags, of excusing bad behavior, of shrinking myself to make someone else look better. Rachel taught me a painful lesson. Liam taught me another. But now I'm teaching myself how to be whole again. Not out of vengeance, but out of survival. And that feels more powerful than any note I could have written.